as goalkeepers, yes, they need to do all the basic stretches and warm up that like the whole team needs, but we need to do additional stretches and stuff just because like ours is immediately explosive, whereas like a field player can like ramp into theirs.
Yeah.
Ours is like immediately explosive, immediate like fast twitch, right? And so we don't have that time to just like, oh, I'm gonna like slowly work into it. It's like, no, I'm gonna hit this big ball now. I'm gonna go save this. I'm gonna go do a power dive now.
It is the Lane United legend Armando Field.
Don't stop. Welcome to FC Game Changer. We got game. The football club that will change your game.
Wilcome back, everyone, to the FC Game Changer show. Today, Quinn Nottage is here with us. He graduated from Willamette University back in 2018, and now he's in his third season as an assistant coach and director of goalkeeping for the men's soccer team. He's also the goalkeepers coach for the women's soccer team, and he's heavily involved in both programs. Quinn, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
It's,
I'm glad
I
to be
think,
here.
the first time we're actually touching on goalkeeping. So this is going to be a good one, I'm sure, and I'm excited to talk to you about anything related to goalkeeping and even more too.
Yeah. I mean, I think goalkeeping is something that in the game of footy is highly touched on as a critic, but never seen as something that we like to highlight. So
Exactly.
excited.
Exactly. So we're super excited for this. But before we touch on that, let's talk about you a little bit. Tell us about your soccer journey, and how you became an assistant coach and director of goalkeeping for the men's soccer team, but also the goalkeepers coach for the women's soccer team.
Yeah.
So tell us.
So I originally never played soccer until I was in 7th grade.
Oh, really?
As most American kids, like I played every sport growing up. Like my parents were like, you're never gonna have a downtime. So my first sport was always basketball, and then supplemented that with everything else.
Why do you think is that? Height?
Yeah, my family was a basketball family,
Okay.
and so it was just like you can play basketball and then other sports are supplemental. I played baseball, but by the age of 12, I was just like kind of bored with it. I enjoyed it, but like I just didn't really want to keep going. I played football, like American football, but I just, as much as I enjoyed the game, I just didn't enjoy like getting beat up after we lost. So I was like, whatever, I don't really want to play this anymore. And then so after that, it was like, let's try soccer, And my dad played soccer and he enjoyed that too. So he's like, sure, go ahead. And so once I went and joined a soccer team, they were like, hey, we need a goalkeeper. And so I was like, I don't have to run? Sure, I can do that. So I jumped in goal and I quickly fell in love with that. And so I played just like rec soccer up until high school. And then my freshman year, there was an injury on the varsity team. And so most of my freshman year, I played varsity and I played really, really well.
Good.
And we made it to the first round of playoffs and I played there. We didn't win, but I made like 10 saves in there and saved a penalty. And
That's it.
It was just like, that was like the initial love when I was like, I might have something here. And so after my sophomore year of high school, I stopped playing AAU basketball and started picking up club soccer. And that's where I kind of like was like, I might have a longer career playing soccer than I will playing basketball. And so that's where it was, kind of my initial journey playing soccer.
Yeah. Do you think that basketball, because like you mentioned, your foundation was basketball,
Yeah.
hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
Do you think that helped the transition?
Yeah, it definitely helped. Being able to like read, I think rebounds, like I was a big rebounder and just like kind of reading defense. I was a defensive specialist and a rebounder. That was kind of like what I like to do. And so I think that was super helpful for me was to be able to see the ball come in and be like, oh, this is where the ball's gonna go. Go get it.
Yep.
And so very similar with soccer and goalkeeping was like the ball's coming in, go get it.
Yep.
And it was very easy because all I had to do was block this square, this rectangle, and that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. I don't have to run. And I have all my energy just to explode this way or explode that way. And I don't really have to do anything.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just going forward and attacking the person. And, you know, most American sports are pretty aggressive. And so I've had that like competitive and aggressive background. And so once I jumped into footy, it was like, just be aggressive and everybody else is going to get out of your way. Yeah. I can surely do that.
Yeah,
so
okay.
That was super fun for me.
A question for you though. What would you recommend? This is completely random, okay? Would you recommend a kid that's coming up playing a bunch of sports, would you recommend that kid to go play basketball first and then transition over to soccer as a goalkeeper, or specialize since when you're super young as a goalkeeper so you know all the fundamentals, all the technical, everything else?
I would never tell a kid to specialize at a young age. I would never tell a kid to specialize. I coach club soccer here in Salem as well, and I always encourage my kids to play other sports.
Especially at that young age.
Oh, highly at the young age. Up until like middle school, you should definitely play other sports. You should never be specialized, just because like that cross training allows your body to be so like adjusted and like available to do different movements that if you're only like, we've all seen soccer players play basketball, or you know, and it's not a pretty thing. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I've seen basketball players that have been able to like kick a soccer ball pretty well. You know, like if you look at some people like Odell Beckham Jr., he was a phenomenal soccer player, but then he went and picked up football. You know what I mean? There's like some athletes who were multi-sport athletes that, you know, up until their final, you know, time in high school or even like getting into college, like that's when they specialized.
So that's when you'd say now it's time for you to pick one and just focus on that after the foundation of all sports.
Once you start to realize like what your better sport is, I'd say that's kind of where you should start to specialize. I know that that's kind of going to get like hit on by some people and say like, nah, you should specialize in this and only be this. But like, you got to let kids be kids and figure out what they like, because if they specialize too early, then all they know is that one thing, and they identify as that as one thing, and they don't know any other thing. So I think that for me, I would say let kids be kids and go try everything that they want to, because for me, I was good at basketball and I was good at soccer. And up until high school, I didn't know which one I would want to pursue. Could I play college basketball? Probably not. I like to think that I could have, not at a high level of any sort, but like, I think that, you know, the desire is there. You know, I played on an AAU circuit, and so that has some sort of standing. And I played against guys that were Division I athletes, and Division II, Division III, NAIA, and I held my own at some point. So I don't think that being specialized in any way like gives you a certain standard, because at the end of the day, like I made it to a level and was pretty successful.
No, it's funny. So you're talking about that stuff, either specializing or not, exploring all sports. So with me coming from a country as Brazil, we never got the chance to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sports. It's the resources that we never had. So you're pretty much forced to specialize, because soccer is all we have. Right? So now looking back, what if, you know, I had the opportunity to, in high school, play many sports? I could have maybe chosen a different one that I liked best. So I think giving the kids that ability to explore might give them the option to be like, okay, I've played all of them, but I'm best at soccer. I'm best at
Yeah.
American football. I'm best at basketball.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's going back to what you said. You mentioned your dad played soccer. Was he a goalkeeper or a field player?
I think he played more so in like adult leagues and stuff, and I think he was a forward.
Okay.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
played the game though.
Yeah, he played. And so he did it, like, he wasn't super competitive in it, other than the fact that like by the time that he was playing, footy in America was really just getting started, and
That
it wasn't
makes
like
sense. Not
super
popular.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more so, I think, just like an adult beer league kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you got sponsored by a pub, and then after you guys go to the bar and
Yeah.
just like toss a couple back.
Yeah. Cool. So now tell us your transition to being a college athlete to now becoming assistant coach and director of goalkeeping of the men's soccer team, and also the goalkeepers coach of the women's soccer team.
Yeah, so
That's huge.
Yeah, so after I graduated, I moved to North Carolina, and I was just teaching high school. That's where kind of my coaching career started. I was coaching youth soccer for NC Fusion, which is a pretty big club in Greensboro, and I am forever grateful for that club. I love that club with all my heart, but I was coaching over there, and I was coming to the end of my time teaching, and my partner, we were looking for kind of a place to relocate after COVID. We were trying to get back to the West Coast and just trying to figure stuff out. And I got a call from Sam Edelman, who's the head coach here now. And
Yeah, we had an interview with him.
Yeah, and so he called and was like, "Hey man, like I know you're in North Carolina. I'm supposed to work a camp this summer in North Carolina, but I can't work it. Can you work it?" And I was like, "No, I can't. Like, I'm going to be on vacation during that time. Like, why can't you work it?" And he's like, "You can't really say anything, but like, I got the head coaching position at Willamette.
Wow.
Like, Jared's leaving, and I'm the head coach." I was like, "Interesting. Britt and I are looking to move back to the West Coast. If you need an assistant, let me know." And he was kind of put off guard by that. Yeah. And so he was like, "All right, cool. Let me know, or like, give me a sec, because I hadn't even thought about that. I haven't even thought about that." And so he was like, "Give me like a week." And so he called me back a week later and was like, "Honestly, like, I didn't even know that you were like thinking about that." And Sam and I played for 2 years together when we were here. And he was like, "Honestly, dude, like, I would love to have you. If this is something awesome that you were like serious about, I would love to have you. I don't have a goalkeeper coach. I don't have an assistant. And so if you could do both, like, that would be amazing." And so, yeah, it was just from that point, it became super serious. And just coming back to Salem is somewhere that kind of felt home. When I was in school here, it was somewhere where I kind of like honed who I was as a person, and then just I had a decent amount of success as in my final year here, and you know, I just really enjoyed what the program had, what I had started as my time here, and then just like as the program kind of, as I left the program, kind of where it had been, and so I just coming back to kind of continue that was always something that I wanted to continue to do. So just having that opportunity was something that I always wanted to do. But and then when I came back, the women's side, they were like, "Well, we need a goalkeeper coach," and so like, "Can you do that as well?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Like,
100%.
I would love nothing more, because in North Carolina, I was working with the women's side. So
nice.
I kind of jumped on both sides of the programs, and so yeah, that's kind of how I've been here.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like the transition with Sam, and then you looking to relocate.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things happen.
Yeah, the universe works in crazy ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you just gotta ride it. And
did you work the camp?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I never worked the camp. It was in Asheville, and it was actually kind of funny that like my girlfriend and I, we were like just like probably 30 minutes from the camp because we were like doing a little vacation at that, like in the same little area. But like we were just like, yeah, I can't work there.
That's not good.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well.
You still got the job though.
I still got the
Good,
job, you
good.
know, and I think honestly I came out on top on that.
Good,
so.
good. So now getting more specific about, goalkeepers. You have experience with that. Tell us the key qualities for a successful goalkeeper.
I think first and foremost, I think you kind of have to be a little crazy. I think.
That's a saying in Brazil.
Yeah.
We have a saying related to that.
What is it?
That they say, in order to become a goalkeeper, you've got to be off up here in a crazy way.
Just a tad.
Yeah,
Not like
yeah.
fully. Not fully. Just like a little. There's got to be something. Like the perfect example
I
is
couldn't.
like yeah.
In all reality, I could not.
Yeah, the perfect example is like, as goalkeepers, we always say you have to be willing to put your face somewhere where somebody won't put their foot.
I know, man. And I think they don't get enough respect.
Yeah.
As they should, as
Yeah.
you should.
Yeah, if you think about a 1v1 save, most of the time you're coming flying out like this, you have no protection in your vital organs, and somebody's like wailing back to slam the ball as hard as they can. Well, whether they're like going to place it, they're trying to chip it, whatever they're trying to do, you don't know.
You don't know.
But you're flying out full speed, just
Your
trying
goal
to
is
go
to block
out,
that.
to block it. That is your goal, and if you don't, everybody's looking at you like, why didn't you save it?
Right.
They don't think about the 10 other guys around you that they just ran past and just broke down. They just think about, Quinn, why didn't you save that?
Yeah.
And you're like,
What about all of you?
exactly. So, and then you also, I think that, to bring back, and I think this is super like culturally relevant right now just because of the time that we're in, is Ted Lasso said it great. You have to be a goldfish. Like,
that's
when I was
great
growing
point.
when I was growing up, they always said like have amnesia, but I think that's kind of like not a great saying now. So I think Ted Lasso says it better. Is like be a goldfish.
Yeah.
Is like you have to have a quick memory.
Yeah.
Because like goals can come quickly. You know what I mean? If you as a goalkeeper get into your head, it's just
Game over.
It's game over.
Game over.
You know what I mean? So you have to be a little crazy. You have to be able to put your face where somebody's not going to put their foot. You have to have a quick memory, and then you just have to be able to like command your box. I don't think that a lot of people understand what that means. It doesn't
I was
mean
going to
like,
ask you, is that like communication piece or?
yeah, and I think that a lot of times people think that's like barking. Like young goalkeepers, I hear they bark a lot. They just like yell. And like when I say barking, like you think of like a dog that just like barks and yaps a lot.
There's no
like
purpose behind
There's
that.
no purpose. Like they're just shouting, they're just saying things. But like, and I tell my goalkeepers this a lot, and shout out to all the defenders that like save goalkeepers all the time because I love you. But like, sometimes you're not the brightest. You know what I mean? It is what it is. If I tell you to go stand on the post, you stand like 2 feet off the post. If I tell you to stand like on the 6, you stand off the 6. So it is what it is. But like when we talk to defenders or people on the field, like they don't want to hear what they should do. They just need to hear what needs to happen. And a lot of the times if they hear barking, they just tone it out. So what I've turned into telling my goalkeepers is have a conversation with them.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing ever really needs, like you're more times than not, your goalkeeper and your back line is never really going to be more than 20 yards away from each other or 30 yards away from each other. And so you don't need to be at a shouting pace. And if you're shouting at somebody, I mean, when my mom's shouting, half the time I just don't hear anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shouting tone just like tones out. You know what I mean? And that's just from like a child to like now. You know what I mean? So regardless of who's shouting, you just tone out. But if you change that to a conversation and as like the situation gets to an urgent pace and an urgent need and an urgent moment, you got to change your tone. So as that tone changes, that defender knows something needs to happen.
Yeah, urgency.
And
yeah.
I've started to help my goalkeepers understand you don't need to have like a whole monologue throughout the game. you're not like just narrating what's happening. Shorten everything that you say down to like 1 to 3 words.
Keywords, yeah.
Away, out, keeper, like slide left, drop, flex, whatever your team's is, right? Step up, right? That's all it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Man on,
Yeah.
right? You don't need to say much to be really effective as a goalkeeper. And then even just like in like super pressure situations, those things can change. Step, 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 away, 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 right? The tone, the verbiage.
Tone, yeah.
The verbiage doesn't change, the tone changes.
The tone changes.
Right? And so just getting goalkeepers to realize that it's a conversation and it's about the tone. And you don't need to bark to be a commander of your box.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's really like major keys. I think other than that, like the technical, the tactical qualities, like those are all interchangeable depending on how your team plays. The men's and the women's team play completely differently. And so like I'm not gonna say that the men's teams needs the same qualities as the women's team. The men's game is completely different than the women's game.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna say that the women's team needs the same thing that the men's team goalkeepers needs and vice versa. I think that's also an important thing that when I'm going and coaching and training the two, that I don't train them the same way.
That I was going to ask you that because you have to switch as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm going to coach the guys now. I'm going to coach the girls.
Yeah.
It is a different method,
Yeah.
right?
It's very different. And I think that I was just talking to Sam about this not too long ago, but there's about a 5-minute period because like today we have a game. We have 2 kind of double stacked games. The women play first and then the men play. And so there's about a 5-minute period of the men's game at the start where I'm just watching the men's game and just like in my head mentally changing over. And just because the game is so different. And I have to like mentally shift. And I think that's important that I'm not watching the men play as if it's the women play, and vice versa.
That's a great point for coaches out there.
Yeah, and if I'm coaching the women, I'm not expecting the things out of the men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not expecting them to, do things that I'm been training the men to do or expecting them. I think for like a really good example is in the women's game, high balls are just like a killer. It's just all the way up until like the Women's World Cup and like professional level. Any ball that's above the head and like just like top bin a shot, it's a killer. It's always a 50-50 if it's gonna go in or not, or if they're gonna save it. Can women save it? Absolutely. And we have goalkeepers here that are phenomenal at doing it, right? But it's about training it and preparing them for that, right? Whereas like at the men's level, because of the stature, the difference in athleticism.
I was going to ask why, and that's the reason. Huh?
It's different. You have a guy that's 6'3" in goal compared to a woman that's 5'8", 5'9", maybe 5'10".
And that's on the
higher level.
Yeah.
So, you have to like change your mentality on that, right? Also, like the women's game's slower, but it's a way more tactical, right? It's a little bit more like X and O's, whereas the men's game's a lot faster paced and can be a lot more transitional.
Yeah.
And so, you have to think about those things and like how the game is going to get broken up. And so a lot on the men's side, we work a lot on transitions and double shots and kind of like not having time to set your feet and making double saves and all those things. Where the women's game, we work a lot on kind of like aerial balls. Where are we saving the shots? Making sure that we're like cleaning our stuff and then just like making sure that we're commanding our box, right? And so I think it's just like making sure that we are preparing each for their right, like their the preparation is correct.
I see. So
And-
you're
yeah.
focusing on their weaknesses,
Yeah.
and their weaknesses are different
Yeah.
on the men and the women's
Yeah,
side.
absolutely.
I see.
And so,
Yeah, no, that's a great point for coaches that they have the same position as you, because I don't know, right? Some coaches, they might act the same way
yeah.
for the men's or the women's team. So that's a good point of view for them to look at it in a different way, so they can kind of wear a different hat almost for both
Yeah.
when they go in and coach them.
Yeah.
You talked about high pressure situations. How do you help them in those situations, in a very high pressure? Because the goalkeeper, like you mentioned, nobody looks at the 10 other players.
Yeah.
They look at the goalkeeper that just got scored on.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that must be hard. You talked about being a goldfish, which that's already, a very, very helpful tip. Right, forget about it, move on, be ready. But now you mentioned you coach, the men's and the women's teams. How do you help them in those high pressure situations?
I think it starts in practice, and training is just like pushing them and putting them in situations in training where success is not the measurement. It's about putting them in situations where they can see how being in a scramble situation, they can get out of it.
It becomes a low pressure, a high pressure situation now becomes a low pressure situation.
Yeah, right?
They get used to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we take that high pressure situation and put it in a low pressure moment, right? If you get scored on 3 times in this moment in practice, we'll just pick the balls up and we'll reset.
Fine.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you drop 2 balls, right, and we don't start well, just reset, collect yourself, we'll go again.
Do it again.
Right? And we can do that again, and we can do that again, and we can do that
Training,
again.
That's the purpose,
Right?
yeah.
Breathe, relax, let's do this again, right? And then we can wear you down, and then we can do it again. You know what I mean? And so the goal is that every training session should be harder than the game, because in the game, I hope to God that they should never be making 25 saves. I pray that they never have to be in the situations that they do in training.
That's a
You know
great
what I
point.
mean?
Yeah.
So if they're getting into situations that they are in training, that means that there is a bigger issue at hand, and that's a team issue. You know what I mean? And that we have to address at the grander scheme of the team, and that's just, they should just be making sure that they're trying to save as much as they can. You know what I mean? And after the game, it's whew, you had a barn burner out there. You know what I mean? Great job keeping as many of it out as you could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We can adjust some things here and there, but hey, good job. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that should be the purpose of training. Because I didn't even think about that. During a game, there's no way, like you said, pray to God. They're not going to have 20, 30 saves. And during training, you're overloading them.
Yeah. I mean, if you even, last year we won conference, and this year is a lot different, especially on the men's side. We're a different team and stuff, but for the best teams in the world, you think about a goalkeeper, the only time they touch the ball for the most part is when their own team passes it to them. So most of the time they're only in a high pressure situation once or twice a game. And so they have to be ready to be in that situation at any given moment for an hour and a half. We're putting that situation in their training in that training for 30 to 45 to an hour, depending on how much time that we have for that training that training session. So that training, you're getting that for 30, 45 to an hour. Compared to in a game, you might not even be in that situation. You might make 1 save. That's the goal. You know what I mean? You might not make a save. that might be, and that is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So ultimately, it's all about like the team in front of you. If you have a great team in front of you, you might not touch the ball. You might not be in that situation. So,
which do you think the goalkeepers, they hope for that, or some goalkeepers are like, oh man, I didn't get to play this game?
when I was in high school,
Yeah.
I was like, I want to make like 10 saves a game. You know what I mean? Like, I think I was like, this is where like goalkeepers are sometimes crazy. Is like, I was like, I want to make 10 saves a game. But I think as the kind of the reward increases, you know what I mean? I think goalkeepers recognize like how much pressure is on you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to be in a high pressure situation, and like all goalkeepers want that on them where they're like, I made the game changing save, where like that could have went in and changed it, and they could have tied, we could have lost points, we could have lost and dropped all the points, but I made that save, and so we kept our points. That was big. Everybody's like patting me on the back and doing all that. We all want that as a goalkeeper. That makes us a little crazy. But in the grand scheme of things, like no goalkeeper wants to really touch the ball because that means that our team is doing well and that we're dominating the game.
Yeah.
I don't think Ederson ever wants to be like, I want to make 10 saves a game. He's like, I would rather have an assist because we're dominating and I just pinged a 60-yard ball.
He's done that too.
And he has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like that's a lot more exciting for him than being like, I was pinned in for the last 40 minutes of the game.
I know, that's
you know
a
what I mean?
nightmare.
Like the Champions League final game where Inter was just like going crazy. I think that was like
game.
super meaningful for him. But I think after he was exhausted and just like drained. I think that was just like so mentally draining for him that he was just like, I can't even really like fathom what happened right there. Like, I think that he would have rather enjoyed just like beating the snot out of Inter Milan and just being like, sick, we won it, and now I can enjoy it. Like, yes, making that final save where he's like picked it out, and then the whistle blew and they win. That's incredible. Goes down in. I'm a City fan, so like that goes down in history as one of the greatest like Champions League final saves ever.
And I think they didn't think that Inter would be as good as they were.
No.
Because it was not an easy game.
No.
That was one of the best games I've watched in Champions League. Yeah, like I think people underestimated Inter.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, come on, Man City, what a year that they had.
Crazy year.
Like, what Pep has been able to do with that team, and it's not just Pep, right? It's the key players that he chose to be part of that team. But I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's being a City fan from the times where like Gareth Barry and Wayne Bridge and my.
So you were always.
I was because my brother was a Man United fan, and he's my older brother. So I was like, what's the complete opposite of that? And then I'm also like, it just happens that I was a North Carolina fan before, like growing up, like a UNC fan. And so I was like, oh, they have UNC colors. Like, that's sick. And so I was like, Man City, that's cool. And then when we got Robinho.
Oh, my God.
And he thought he was going to Man U. And then he was like, there's another team in Manchester. I think that was hilarious. And then they actually came to Portland. And they played the Timbers at Merlot, and I was able to go to that game, and I got Zhao's. I got his warm up when he played for Man City.
You just asked, and he
because they were like, UP's like bench is right in front, and so like I'm like 12 years old. And I like ran down, and like he was like taking his warm up off, and I was like, "Yo, can I get your warm up?" And Zhao looked at me and he like tossed it back. I was like, I didn't wash it. It just like reeked of like straight cologne and everything. Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, fun fact.
Yeah, no,
that's how I became a Man City fan, and that just solidified it. And then on top of that, Joe Hart is like, I know he's not like a modern day goalkeeper, but he was just a fantastic goalkeeper as a shot stopper, and that's who I was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I became a coach that like I got way better with my feet, and so like I was a shot stopper, and so I looked at Joe Hart as just like this god of like making fantastic saves. He also like made saves that he shouldn't have made, like. It's fancy, but like I love that. So.
Yeah, you mentioned about the footwise for goalkeepers.
Mm-hmm.
It's been growing more and more.
Yeah.
Right. They've been becoming I would say, the most complete player.
Yeah.
On the field.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys focus a lot on footwork here as well?
Yes, immensely. I think that shout out to Neuer for that. Like Neuer is like I think, okay, first of all, it's probably Jorge Campos who started that. He was probably the number one person that was like the sweeper keeper, could play any position because obviously he wore the number 9 and is like famous for like just ripping off his shirt and being like, give me the other jersey and then going and scoring goals. Like Jorge Campos is a legend for that. But then like the game wasn't evolved enough by that time. So then it came to like Neuer at that point.
Yeah.
And so Neuer, there's a story that once when he would go to the Germany national team camps, he wouldn't join into the goalkeeper trainings.
Really?
He would just be like a defender.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he would just be in like the team, like the regular team, and just be a defender. And so I think that's like really important that like ultimately the goalkeeper is the 5th defender. You know what I mean? Not to say that like you can't, like your job is not to defend the goal, but if you have that defender on the field as a goalkeeper, it gives that extra sense of security for your back line that they can play a little bit more free. Your goalkeeper is going to be back there. Like if a ball comes over the top, your goalkeeper is going to be there and is comfortable enough. I think that's super important for us here, especially that like you have to be proficient with your feet. And we spend a lot of time just like emphasizing playing with your feet and being proficient with your feet. I think if you look at our, like what we look for, playing with your feet is up there as like probably like the 2nd or 3rd like really important thing. Obviously like shot stopping and being like a solid goalkeeper is number 1, but after that it's like, are you able to play with your feet?
Yeah.
And then my philosophy as a goalkeeper coach has really evolved to really incorporate that, especially at the youth level, because a lot of the time they'll be like, oh, you can't play with your feet, go be a goalkeeper. You know what I mean? And so
it's not like that anymore.
No. So me and Mikey Foster, who is the other he's the director of goalkeeping for the youth, for the girls at CFC,
the club here.
here. And so me and him have been working a lot with like the youth goalkeepers, working with their feet. And so we've incorporated a lot with that, just trying to make sure that they are also proficient with their feet, and a lot in the sense of goalkeepers. A lot of the time they'll be like, oh, jump into rondos and just do what like the field players do. But a lot of the times it involves turning like 180 degrees, taking 3-4 touches, or just like, you know, doing things that like a midfielder needs to do, or a winger or something like that.
You see them doing that, like sometimes even dribbling.
That's fair, but like, when was the last time you saw a goalkeeper turn 180 degrees with the ball? I hope to God my goalkeeper never turns 180 degrees with the ball. You know what I mean? So what we have focused on is this direction, right? Like all ball work should be in this direction and be very proficient, nice and tidy in this direction. Maybe opening it up to this, right? But like you should never turn around and do that.
Yeah, the goal's right behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and if you do anything that way, like the goal's right behind you, making sure that you're outside of your goal face so that if a ball does leak behind you, you know, it's not going in your goal, right? But like a lot of the things that we do is making sure that like you're proficient with your feet is really nice and tidy. If you are getting pressed, you know how to deal with the press and like where your exits are, right? How can you get out of a press? How can you deal with that? And then if you need to like escape, where are your escapes? It's a diagonal ball. Where are those diagonal balls going? How can you like lead a forward in? Ederson's really good about like putting like Holland or it used to be Sterling or Mahrez, and now it's kind of like not really Foden, but like Julian Alvarez in.
Scored a beautiful goal.
Right?
Free kick.
Beautiful. Yeah. But like putting those guys in, right? And so like, how can you put those people in? Also, how can you connect with your back line? Yeah. How can you like build out with your back line? And so Alisson does it really well with Liverpool now, right? Like, how can you create that back five and get your outside backs higher up the line? How can we start to build with basically your left center back out here, almost like your left back now? That goalkeeper is now outside, kind of like your left back, or like your left center back. Now you have your right back or your right center back, and then your right back is nice and high, right? So now you still have your back five or your back four, and you have one high, right? Like how can you start to build and your goalkeeper be proficient? Even when we're a little bit higher, how can like if they're pressing, how can we drop it to our center back or our goalkeeper, and how can you break a line, right? How can you use that breaking line pass to not turn it into a transition? How can you break a line over somebody? How can you clip a ball over that forward that's pressing that center back, right? And just clip it to the outside back. So there's a lot of different types of balls that we can play that don't require us to turn, that don't require us to jump into like the field player kind of technical and tactical sessions and things like that. And so it's a lot of things to think about, but we have to do those in very intelligent ways and very like specific ways.
Risky.
It is. It's very risky, and if you don't think about it and if we don't do it correctly, it can be dangerous.
It could cause you to lose the game. 0-0. Exactly. You try to do that, they take the ball, score a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about injury related for goalkeepers. If you can, share your thoughts on goalkeeper conditioning and injury prevention.
Yeah, I think we've been unfortunately plagued by goalkeeper injuries this year. Starting out, my guy Ryan Doyle kind of broke his leg this year, which was really tough for us. That
was the one we were talking about off camera?
Yeah, broke his leg, kind of slid out, and guy came in late and just like clapped it. Was not great.
So contact injury, required surgery and stuff. So he's out. God. He's out. There was
nothing
he could have done, right?
Nothing he could have done. He did everything great. Like he came through, cleaned it, won the ball, did everything great. But yeah, it was just tough for him. But yeah, as far as injuries, I think the biggest thing for goalkeepers is just like muscle injuries, especially in the hamstring and the quad. We do a lot of big kicks. And so if you repetitive big kicks, and so if you're not coming in with that idea or with that kind of repetition of like, I've been hitting big kicks, I've stretched properly, I've done all of these things coming into the season, we're getting into that immediately. Not that like the first day we're just gonna start hitting like long balls or we're gonna start hitting punts and things like that. But that's part of the game. You know what I mean? Like once you go into live session and things like that, I expect you to be able to hit a long ball. I expect you to be able to hit a clipped ball. I expect you to be able to hit a diagonal, right? I expect you to be able to hit a punt, right? And if you have to hit that 3 or 4 times, like, I expect you not to come up lame. And so I think that's really important, is that goalkeepers practice those things a lot, right? And it also make sure that they are coming in properly fit and properly stretched, right? I always give my goalkeepers at least 3 or 4 minutes after like the whole team warm up before we go into our goalkeeper session to make sure that they are properly stretched, because as goalkeepers, yes, they need to do all the basic stretches and warm up that like the whole team needs, but we need to do additional stretches and stuff, just because like ours is immediately explosive, whereas like a field player can like ramp into theirs.
Yeah.
Ours is like immediately explosive, immediate like fast twitch, right? And so we don't have that time to just like, oh, I'm gonna like slowly work into it. It's like, no, I'm gonna hit this big ball now. I'm gonna go save this. I'm gonna go do a power dive now. And so I think it's really important for goalkeepers to take care of their bodies and know and be in tune with their bodies and know what's going on.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. With them, it's the amount of repetition. And I'm sure that you guys train both sides, but with the goalkeeper, especially for the big, long balls, they're just training their strong side. It's over and over and over. Yeah, that's a good point. Do you guys have a strength and conditioning protocol that you have for the athletes, and how does that work? How often?
Yeah, shout out Mike Lovely.
He's the one?
Yeah, so Mike Lovely does our strength and conditioning here at Willamette, well, at least for the men's program, and I know he's been working a little bit with the women's program too. So he is a local guy here in Salem, and he has done our strength and conditioning program for the last couple years with them, and so he does a great job. He worked closely with our programs. He comes in at least once a week and just like does like an in-person session, and then like he has like an app that he like uploads like workouts with, where
that
like
helps.
with the guys that they can, and some of the girls that they can come in and do like the workouts on their own and things like that.
So he has the workouts that they need to get done on the app.
Yep.
They will come in, kind of assist them on all the exercises. They get to know what they're doing. They just keep updating on the app.
Yep.
High tech?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, here at D3, we have some limitations that like we can't do at like D1 or D2. But we try to supplement it as much as we can.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah.
Now, Quinn, give us, advice to, young goalkeepers that are aiming to play college soccer. What can they do now to have a better chance to get into college soccer?
Yeah. I think, be someone who is open to criticism, but also understand that not all criticism is great criticism. And then don't just go to every goalkeeping camp that you can.
Why is that?
I think that you have to understand that you have to figure out who you are as a goalkeeper before you just like start getting all this information and just like feeling out everything. I wasn't somebody who was your traditional goalkeeper or anything like that, and I had a decent career. I don't think that you need to go and have a private trainer every week to be successful. I think a lot of it you just have to do yourself. It takes that time and that dedication. There's no shortcuts. And I think that a lot of kids these days want to find the easiest, fastest, and best way to do that. And part of that is just like working really hard and finding something that works for you, whether that's a coach that works for you that you can work really hard with, right? Whether that's an individual coach, whether that's a team coach, or that's just like going and finding a group of goalkeepers that you can work with. Right? Or even just like finding like a couple of YouTube channels that you can work with, right?
Good resources
I think
out
that
there.
like that is a very underrepresented idea, that like people will just go on YouTube and just like find things. Like I think the best resource that we have now is like being able to have access to this information.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I wish that like when I grew up that I could just go and like find out what high class goalkeepers were doing. I think.
And nowadays, even the pros, they
Yeah.
have their channels. They're publishing good stuff out there.
Yeah.
So
I think by the time I got into college, the only one that I could really find was like the England goalkeeping camps. And that was I would watch those religiously just to see like what Joe Hart and like Ben Foster and Fraser Forrester and what those guys were doing in their camps. And I was just like, what does their technique look like? What are their strong suits look like? You know what I mean? How are they hitting the ball? What does their regiment look like? How are they like holding themselves in this, So I think for me that was like really important, is like look at what other goalkeepers are doing well and, take that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be a super unique goalkeeper, you just have to be proficient in like a couple of things.
Yeah.
Whether that's, being really good with your hands and be working with your feet, right? Somebody's gonna want that, right? If you're super good with your hands, right? Make sure that that's the one thing that you're really good at, but do not neglect your feet.
Yeah. Especially nowadays.
Oh,
yeah.
If you're not good with your feet, like we can't do much with you.
Yep.
At the next level, like that's just like, that's tough. Like there's really no college, I think, in the country that's really gonna take you if you can't really play with your feet. Like if somebody can't play a pass back to you and it's 2 touches, you can't cleanly distribute it, that's a tough one.
Since we're talking about this, so give us 3 instant game improvement tips for goalkeepers.
Being able to distribute the ball within 2 touches cleanly. Being able to clip a ball. And so when I say clip a ball, I mean being in your goal box and be able to bypass the center back and clip it to your outside back in the air, just like a little dink ball, not a looping ball, just like a little kind of like with pace to your outside back, and either to like their chest or their foot.
Okay.
And then
That's 2.
Yeah. Hold everything if it's in the air. Hold everything if it's in the air. Or punch it.
Okay. Hold everything, but if you don't have the chance to, because what could happen though? It's so you jump up, you held it, or you can punch it. Sometimes what goalkeepers will do, they'll just let the ball go, or
they'll just like
fumble.
They'll fumble it, or I'll put a little caveat in this, and I'll change that to put where you parry or like where you save the ball, make sure it is no longer in the danger zone, or it is like out of like, it's away from where the ball just came from. So if Armando just shot the ball at me, I'm parrying it away from him.
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
And so like I'm not putting it back into danger. I always say like putting it back in the mixer or something like that. So I would say like that would be my third one.
Okay.
It's like when you're saving the ball, where are you putting your parries? Like direction of your saves. Like directional saves, how are you doing that? So like focus on that. When you're saving the ball, where are you saving it?
And now that you mentioned the 3 instant game improvement for the goalkeepers, what is a common mistake you often see with goalkeepers?
Thinking about the next thing that you're gonna do before you make the save.
because that takes the focus away from the actual save?
Oh, you let the ball go in, or like you fumble it, and then like they
Because
just
you're
like
already thinking,
yeah, because you're like, oh, the ball's coming in, and you're
easy,
like,
I got it.
and you're like, your eyes start moving beyond, and then like you go to hold something, and then you start fumbling it because you're thinking about like I see my forward start to streak, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go like after I catch this, I'm gonna just ping a perfect ball to him, and then you're like, oh man, like I dropped this ball and now it's bad.
So one thing at a time. Then.
One thing at a time.
Save it, grab it, and because they do have time, right?
Yeah.
Take your time.
The most important save is the one that you're making right now.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You mentioned Ederson and Alisson.
Yeah.
Of course, you're gonna lean more towards Ederson. But tell us your favorite goalkeepers.
Right now?
Yeah. Let's do a top 5.
Okay. I just did this with my goalkeepers the other day.
Okay.
All right.
Was it a top 5 too?
No,
was it just-
they asked who I thought the best goalkeeper in the world was.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Okay.
Wait. Let's do a top 5.
Yeah.
Out
okay. In
but
no
then-
particular order right now.
No particular order,
Okay.
and then the best goalkeeper in the world.
Okay. Donnarumma.
Okay.
I'll go Mike Mignon with AC Milan. He just got hurt. Unfortunate. Super unfortunate.
Okay, Donnarumma. Okay.
I'll go Thibaut Courtois, even though I hate him. I just don't like him.
He's also hurt right now, right?
He is.
Yeah.
I just don't like him. He did my boy Kevin De Bruyne bad. If you want to know more about it, go look it up. He did my boy Kevin De Bruyne bad. I'll go Alisson. Oh.
You haven't said Ederson here. Ederson is not there on the top 5?
Okay. I would say I'll put Ederson there because he is the best goalkeeper playing out with his feet.
That's so interesting. Okay, repeat the order. So you said
So
Donnarumma.
it's Donnarumma, Mike Mignon, Thibaut, Alisson, and then Ederson.
Interesting. You took a while though to say Ederson. I thought you were gonna say Ederson the first. I know that it's not in order.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your top 5.
Yeah. Ederson's 5th, for sure. He's just, okay, I say this because, like, Ederson, when it comes to actually making saves, he makes a lot of mistakes. Like, I love the guy. I absolutely love Ederson, but, like, goalkeeping, he does make a lot of mistakes.
This is gonna get heated.
I know.
It's
I'm gonna get hate. I'm a City fan. I love Ederson, but he kind of makes some stupid mistakes.
Oh my God. Okay.
And then I'll also put
That's good. That's good.
I'll also put like Emi Martinez in there.
Okay.
For what he did at the World Cup. Huge and crazy.
Huge.
And then I'll also put Nick Pope. Last year, like he kind of like had a little shaky year, but I think Nick Pope is really good. And I also put the 2 Arsenal goalkeepers in there, Ramsdale and David Raya in there as well. And then Dark Horse, who doesn't really play well.
Now we went up to top 10.
I know, but like, I think David Ospina is so good and was so underrated, and like, I don't think people understand how good he was.
Yeah.
And like, Real Madrid
Martinez too, though. Martinez is another one. And I think,
Emi is so good. Emi is so good. But yeah, no.
Okay, those, let's say top 5, top 10 now. The best goalkeeper in the world. One.
Gosh.
That's gonna get heated.
Okay, I'm gonna take Thibaut out just because my personal vendetta against him. Because shouts out KDB. That's my guy forever.
Jesus.
He's the best midfielder in the
Baller.
world. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Donnarumma.
You think so?
Yeah.
I would not think you'd say that.
Either him or Mike Mignon.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's gonna get heated.
Yeah.
Especially after.
Mike Mignon should have been the French goalkeeper #1 for at least the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But they just have like this weird affinity to Hugo Lloris.
Mm-hmm. Wow. This was fun.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. Quinn, it's getting to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We always ask this question to every guest we have.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a game changer moment in your life and why.
Just in my life in general.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. I think teaching high school and then coming back was a big one. I think it solidified who I was as a man, and then just like who I was as a person. And then it allowed me to come back and be like a super good coach. And I don't like say this as as a bragging, but like it allowed me to be a good coach for myself. So that I wasn't thinking about myself as a coach, and I could think about just my kids that I was coaching. I could go and think about how I was coaching people from a teaching standpoint, and not from just, I want you to do what I'm asking. And I could think about it as a learning experience and like be able to build off of that. And I could think about the principles of learning and learning styles. And so I think that helped me be a better coach.
100%.
And also think about my experiences as a player to be how I want my time as a coach be different.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And Quinn, where can people find you and find Willamette University?
You can find me here at Willamette University. I do like 50 different things here at Willamette. And so you can also find me on Instagram at TopBinsGK. It's been slacking, but it's getting better, I promise. And then other than that, you can find us at Willamette Men's Soccer. And we're getting some great content. So go ahead and follow us there.
Thank you so much, Quinn.
Thank you.
I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please help us out. Subscribe down below and also like the video as well. I hope to catch you soon. Have a good one.